It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast, talking your property news as we do 7 days a week, including this morning, Sunday morning, the very 1st of December. Strap in, here we go. Well, they say that, brace yourself from December the 1st to January the 1st. It's going to be busy, no doubt about that. And if you are a first home buyer, the federal inquiry into home lending may recommend easing restrictions to help you borrow more. Proposals include modernising the banking code to enable flexible ownership, like parents co-owning properties with their children. And despite calls to reduce the 3% mortgage serviceability buffer, APRA has adopted to maintain it, they say, citing household debt, cost of living pressures and global risks. You kind of probably got to be in the camp of the lenders there, because there is some sort of protection or even a form of insurance. And there's no doubt that we are living in uncertain times. But if the inquiry brings out some more modernising of the banking code, it's got to be good. Coming up next, we'll take a look at the best of over the last 7 days.
Ready to step up your property knowledge? Access powerful insights with us.
Thank you, Craig, and I'm very excited to be on the show with you today.
And you were named the Rising Star of the Year. So how long have you been doing real estate, given that you're the Rising Star this year?
I've been in real estate for 4 years now, and I've been a standalone for about a year and a half. It's been a very exciting journey, to say the least, as well.
Yeah, I get that sense. And prospecting, so important. Don't go into real estate next year in 2025 if you don't want to get out and do the prospecting. Such a critical part of real estate. Some people, I've said this before, some agents think that they can just do the social media and not do the prospecting. It doesn't work like that.
It's actually very funny. So with social media, if you actually look at all your favorite agents' accounts and look at their followers, it's just real estate agents and people in finance, mortgage brokers, the industry, lawyers that follow those real estate agents. It's actually not a great deal of people that are genuine clients that will transact. And I think that's really important to know, that you can see all these flash real estate agents on social media, but then you think about yourself watching them and you're probably not a vendor or, a seller or a buyer. So with prospecting, you've got to be, first of all, people rejecting you, it's not personal. They don't know you, you don't know them. You've also got to realize that out of 100 calls, you might only have one meaningful conversation. And you've also got to be very persistent. Once you've opened that line of communication, you've got to make sure that you don't just say, oh, well, that was a good chat. If they sell next year, they're going to call me. It's not that. It's so much more. It's, getting to know them, getting to know their situation, why they want to move.
Authenticity, of course, that's pretty important. Not everybody is authentic. Unfortunately, with social media, some people sort of put on this sort of mask, and that doesn't always transfer when they are face to face with somebody if they get into a room. So always be yourself. Don't try and create something, because that just doesn't come through. Right, we better get on and have a look at some of the things that you're noticing there in your market, because you've noticed a shift towards expression of interest as a preferred sales method over traditional auctions.
Yeah, so with the EOI process, for those that do not know, it is basically the same as an auction by way of a 4-week campaign. But instead of coming towards that date and, being out in the street or in the property and bidding, putting your hand up, there is an EOI form that you fill out by that date. And the form basically stipulates what your offer is, but you only have one opportunity to put that form forward. So typically the agent will not come back to you and renegotiate. It will just be that one best, only and final offer. And then by the end of that process, the agent will then speak with the successful party and say, congratulations, we'll sign the contract of sale with you now. So We've noticed a shift to EOI this year, particularly because of the uncertainty in the marketplace. People don't want to feel as though they're overpaying. There's also people that are, working with brokers and need to be subject to finance. There are also people that are selling while they're trying to buy as well. So they need that stability in saying, hey, I need to have special conditions in place so that I feel certain levels of protection. I have certain levels of comfort moving forward with the purchasing process.
We are more than just a real estate podcast. Follow each week all of the main talking points and know your property.
How big is that particular catchment of South Australia in terms of people or households?
So in the township that I predominantly work from, there is about 8,000 people in Goolwa, but it's a tourist area. So we have Goolwa, Middleton, Port Elliot, and also Victor Harbour. So there's 4 or 5 really close towns together within 20 minutes of each other. And 50% of our population is made up of holiday homes. So 50% permanent residents and 50% holiday homes.
You're obviously doing a lot of transactions. Have you got a support person or are you still doing it on your own?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be able to survive without the engine room and without the support behind the scenes. Luckily enough, I married my personal assistant. So my husband is my executive PA. So he unfortunately doesn't get to have a day off very often. He works 7 days a week. I have another lady that works 3 days a week to help me with marketing and just to make sure everything behind the scenes is running smoothly.
Hey, you've reversed it out. Marrying your PA, that's what a bloke normally does.
Yeah, I couldn't live without him, that's for sure.
So excited to have this award because it recognises this often unsung part of our industry, the incredible people who work tirelessly behind the scenes, supporting EBUs and really running the engine of an agent's team.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really understand when people have these support people and they're paying out a salary for them. They don't understand just how time consuming this is and how busy agents can be. And if you've got somebody who is highly organised, they're not costing you money, they're actually making you money, even though you've got to pay somebody to do that. And that's really the rationale. That's the thinking behind bringing people in like you who are clearly highly organised. You've got this ability to multitask, and that in itself is a big linchpin. If you can find people that can do the multitasking on various levels, it just sets up that top agent to sell more fluently without any hassles.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's my specialty. I come into agents' businesses, assess their current operations, advise and streamline as much as I possibly can, because it's more important than ever for an agent to solely focus on listing, selling, prospecting, so they can provide the best service to our client. They also need someone to organise all the preparation before it actually comes to market. So having systems and checklists for every single aspect of the business, I guess ironing out the weak points so we can go into autonomy and once again provide the best service to the clients. It's the most crucial aspect of the business.
Yes, because I would imagine if you're not being active as an owner of commercial real estate, you can't just sit and hold on that property in the current landscape.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in the past, for the past 30, 40 years, the fundamentals of commercial real estate have now changed due to the land tax, because each year you're getting a bill that, in some cases on a, $3, $4, $5 million property could be $100,000 to $200,000. And if you haven't got a tenant in there that's utilising the whole of the space, or you haven't spent money on the building to increase the rent that you can get, in some cases the land tax bill is higher than the rent you're actually achieving.
And talking about these people that are divesting, where do they go? Do you find out where some of your clients have sort of cashed up and moved on? Have they bought into another state?
Yeah, look, a lot of people are in Victoria in particular heading to Queensland. Our land tax is lower. up there. But a lot of our vendors are essentially saying, Dylan, I'm receiving a 2 or 3% yield on my factory in Collingwood or South Melbourne. I can actually put the money in the bank right now and get 5.5% or even more if you lend it out to, private debt or even just put it on the stock market. So there's a real competition for capital. The good news is there's still plenty of people who want to buy that commercial real estate, who are more active owners that want to come in. They want to spend $500,000 on the building, bring it up to speed, fix the roof, fix the lights so that they can then generate the higher returns.
One of the things that I always find interesting is people with portfolios that want to dabble in commercial, and they've sort of hesitated. They've said, no, I might just stick with residential. I like doing renos. I like doing all sorts of different things in the residential market. But you just said something before the break which could be of interest to people that are into the reno side of things, and that is these buildings that need a bit of a reno, need a bit of a makeover, and suddenly, there's some good value that you can find in the commercial space.
Oh, absolutely. And these buildings they're just in core locations. So you're close to public transport and amenity. They've also got good scale. So you could buy a building for $2 million, but you can get in and you could spend $250,000 to $500,000 fixing the flooring, fixing the roofing. And then out of nowhere, you can lease it to like a national brand tenant on a 5-year lease term. So as opposed to residential where you're dealing with 6 and 12-month leases and you've got a bit of uncertainty around tenant tenure, you could sign this up for 5 years and then put it in the top drawer and, set and forget type thing. We're seeing a lot of super fund money come into the commercial market space and actively refurbishing buildings.
Every week, unravel the real estate market to empower your real estate knowledge.
What it really kind of showed me is that this is a much bigger deal and a much more underserved market than I'd first realized, because I've never had like a real bad squatter situation before, but a few of my friends have, and it's lax laws, it's loopholes that squatters are taking advantage of. And then in the process, I learned about something called deed fraud, which is a very insidious crime that's growing in popularity and robbing homeowners of all their equity. So I started Squatter Defender and Title Fraud Defender to help defend property owners against those. And that's been my little 2025 side quest.
So tell us a little bit more about that deed fraud that you're talking about.
Yeah, so a deed, at least here in America, and I think it's like this other places too, it's just a piece of paper with a notary stamp on it, and you can file it with the county clerk, and just like that, you can change the title to a property. And if you go through a series of steps, you steal an identity and you put it in that identity, you can actually steal the title to somebody's house and then resell it and then pocket all of that equity into your ill-begotten bank account. It was one of those things where I found out about it. It wasn't that common, but it's like doubling every year, that sort of thing. And there's not a lot that's being done about it. So when I started Title Fraud Defender, it was really in an effort to help protect my fellow investors from it. But actually, most of the people that are signing up on our website to protect their titles, not all of them are investors. They're just concerned homeowners about this growing crime.
So not everybody has seen the video that you're talking about. When you say you pretended to be a squatter, how did all of that unfold? How did you do that?
So I just said, hey, this is how I stole a house in Portland, Oregon, and totally got away with it. So I basically say, all right, first I looked up a vacant house, then I broke into the lockbox and gained access, no problem. Then when the police showed up, I had moved in my furniture and my buddies, and I said, oh, hey, sorry, but this is my house. And, once you're in possession of the house, possession's 9/10 of the law. The police officers got a he said, she said situation, got an owner saying, hey, I've never seen this guy before. And I've got the squatter, I guess me in this case, saying like, well, hey, no, I have a lease. Here's my lease. And of course, it's just something you printed up on your computer. And so the cop says, okay, well, this is a civil matter. I can't arrest this person. I can't pull them out of their house just because you say he's not supposed to be there. And plus, it's like, look, he's got his friends and his furniture in there. Like, this looks legit. So that leads to a dispute. And it's kind of a legal loophole that these squatters are exploiting. And when it comes to evicting them and getting them out, it takes months and months and months. And by then they've trashed the place. They've take advantage of the homeowner for tens of thousands of dollars. A lot of times they will pay them cash for keys to leave and then they won't. So it's a real big problem.
Are you spending big bucks on ads that don't hit the right audience? Isn't it always about the right audience? You can land your message directly every day with our core audience. It's a powerful connection.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to make housing more affordable, you can either increase the supply through, say, densification, or you can decrease demand. Now, a lot of people think that the huge problem with, or the reason that housing has become much less affordable is because supply hasn't kept up with demand. But we know that over the last 10 years, the population has increased by 16%, but the number of dwellings has grown by 20%. That is, demand is not keeping up with supply. We are building enough houses to keep up with the demand for houses. The problem is that over this same period, we've had a new form of demand jump into the market, and that's investment demand for property.
Having a look at the government versus the private sector, the private developers face these challenges in making medium density projects profitable. What do you think? Should the government step in to fill the gap to potentially scale up affordable housing projects?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another big change over kind of decades, has been that the government used to, when housing was affordable, if you go back to the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s and into the 80s, government had a big role in housing. They built a lot of houses. They provided a lot of low-cost housing. We know that around the world, if we look around the world, countries that do have affordable housing all have one thing in common, and that is they have a big role for government in the housing sector. So if we look at other countries like Singapore, for example, Singapore will supply young Singapore families with an apartment. Obviously in Singapore it's all apartment because they have such little land. But they build high-rise buildings and they'll sell Singapore couples a house basically at cost. Now, if a Singapore couple buys that house, they can't then on-sell it to the private market. They've got to sell it back into the same scheme. So it's not a system where they can make a big capital gain, but it does supply them with housing. And because of that, they have very affordable housing in Singapore.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.